Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. We're going to see President Trump in Nevada and South Carolina. We'll start with that first, and then we're going to get into Amy Coney Barrett and how she gave Trump very likely a landslide victory in 2024, and we'll explain why. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. To my super chat, I cannot do this without you. If you want to support my work while while Trump or Amy Coney Barrett are speaking, feel free via super chat to support the channel. Hit subscribe. I'll be back also at 10 p.m. Eastern. But let's get started first with Trump. I want to start with his Iowa victory. Then we'll get to South Carolina, which is where he's at now. He won Nevada in record-breaking manner, but the audio wasn't, perfect with Nevada. But let's start. I want everyone to see the energy, the enthusiasm, the electricity of Trump in Iowa, and then we'll get to Amy Coney Barrett.
Well, I want to thank everybody. This has been some period of time, and most importantly, we want to thank the great people of Iowa. Thank you. We love you all. What a turnout, what a crowd. And I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world and straighten out the problems and straighten out all of the death and destruction that we're witnessing. That's practically never been like this. It's just so important, and I want to make that a very big part of our message. We're going to come together. It's going to happen soon, too. It's going to happen soon. I want to thank some of the great people. We have so many senators. If I go through every name, we'll be here all night, and everybody's going to get angry at me. But the senators, the congressmen from Washington, they came down from all different states. I want to thank you very much. I want to congratulate Ron and Nikki for having a good time together. We're all having a good time together. And I think they both actually did very well. I really do. I think they both did very well. We don't even know what the outcome of second place is. And I see Carrie Lake. Congratulations, Carrie. Very good. I spotted her, I have to announce, because she's terrific. She's going to be a senator, a great senator, I predict, right? You're going to be a great senator. And I also want to congratulate Vivek, because he did a hell of a job. He came from zero, and he's got a big percent, probably 8%, almost 8%, and that's an amazing job. They all did. They're all very smart people, very capable people. I think most importantly, I want to thank my incredible wife, First Lady, I'll say former and maybe future. But more important than Melania, I want to thank her incredible, beautiful mother who passed away a few days ago. And she's up there, way up there. She's looking down, and she's so proud of us. And I just want to say to Amalia, you are special, one of the most special people I've ever known. And that was a tough period of time for the family. But she's amazing. She was amazing. So I just want to thank what she's done for our family, and her husband, who's home right now and very lonely. He's a lonely man, but he's going to be okay. Victor, they're great people, great parents to all of us, really. Great parents, but also to Barron. Boy, did she take care of Barron. That's how he got so tall. He only ate her food. And I want to thank my family generally. They've worked so hard, and they've taken so much abuse for being good people. I mean, good people. But Eric and Don, they really did. These two have been working so hard, and they have another job also, so they have to do it all. But they've been working so hard, and I know that Ivanka is home and Tiffany's home. They're watching, and I know that Barron's watching. Good old Barron. I said, "You're going to be a basketball player." I said, "Well, I like soccer, Dad, actually." I said, "At your height, I like basketball better, but sometimes you can't talk them into everything." But he's a special boy. But the whole family is just incredible. And my sister, Elizabeth, who's just the biggest fan. She's just an incredible person and always supportive. We love Elizabeth so much. Also, we have a woman who took a big chance. You know, in most states, we have support of everybody, the Congress, the senators. We had Marco Rubio. We had Rick Scott the other day. We have, probably 55% of the senators. And now they're all calling and saying, "We want to endorse you, sir." I said, "Oh, great." Same thing with the Congress, men and women. We have tremendous, much more than anybody probably has ever had in this position. And we love them all. They're great. They're really trying to do a good job for our country. But one woman in Iowa who really stepped up was your Attorney General, Brenna Byrd. She really, really stepped up. Where is Brenna? Come here. She stepped up. She's going to be your governor someday, I predict. So we'll see. We'll be watching, but she really did. She broke away from the pack.
So, ladies and gentlemen, does this sound like the totalitarian, authoritarian despot that Democrats and media want you to believe that he is? Does this sound like somebody who's going to be a authoritarian from day one? I don't think that the people who despise Trump, who, just throughout the country, let's say, because, you have over half the country that loves Trump. If the favorability numbers are completely skewed, if he's up nationally over Biden, and he only has 24/7 negative media coverage, you do the math. If he's up nationally over Biden by 2 points or 2 to 4 points, let's say, and he's only and he has negative favorability numbers, but you have to also take into context the 24/7 negative media coverage. If media was apolitical or nonpartisan and was just the media we had in 2012, where Paul Ryan was runner-up for Person of the Year in Time magazine, if you had a media that didn't accuse Trump of everything under the sun without evidence, like him being an operative of another country, you'd have the poll numbers themselves a lot higher, but the average person on the street is not represented within those poll numbers because of the 24/7 negative media coverage. Okay, think about the actual poll numbers of Biden if media actually did investigative journalism on Hunter and his laptop and bribery and graft schemes. We'll get to Amy Coney Barrett in a second and the Supreme Court arguments in a second. I want to just give people a chance to see Trump, who he is, thinking of, and they tried to disparage him also, really vile, his mother-in-law had passed away, and there was like really negative response from media, and you see how much he loves his family, his mother-in-law, you see how much his family loves him. So that's very important. I mean, when was the last time a person who didn't like Trump actually heard him speak for more than 10 seconds? And that's hopefully what I'll be able to do all throughout, from now until throughout November and beyond. People should listen to Donald Trump speaking and not the filtered, apoplectic, hysterical, manic analysis of his words from those who just want to tear him down. They should listen to an actual speech, or at least 2, 3, 4 minutes straight of him speaking. It'll make a lot more sense than anything Biden says. Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel. Let's continue.
And she had tremendous courage, and wasn't easy. In some states it's easy, in other states it's a little bit more difficult. But we have really the support of the people of Iowa, which has been just incredible. Another man who was actually the first person to endorse me in the entire country. He's a state senator. His name is Brad Zahn. He looks like he's the most handsome guy, I think. Oh, you made it. He had to drive from his caucus location. You made it. I call him the Marlboro Man. Hey, Brad. You want to say something? Come on, go up. Say something.
Well, I'll tell you, I had to actually do a TV interview bragging about you. The reason why I was late is because of that, but is he awesome or what? I am honored to be the first person in the United States to endorse this guy. The next president, the 47th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
And when he says endorse, we're really talking about 2015. He endorsed me before, actually, long before I knew I was going to run. I said, who's this man in Iowa? He's a senator, a state senator. He's a good-looking guy, too. Doesn't he look? You could...
People
give him a lot of money. And by the way, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for being here. You are so great. Comes all the way from Missouri, which isn't that far. You can't drive an electric car that far, though. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. The group of people that we have on the stage is just emblematic of the tremendous group that we've had. We've had such a great team. We did well. We were looking really good in 2016. And just to go back to the senator, he was saying, I said, who is that guy? Brad, his name. Who is he? He keeps endorsing me. He keeps saying Trump. And I didn't even know I was running. He endorsed me 4 months before I knew I was running, about 4 months before the Escalade ride down with our great First Lady. And that was Brad. I said, who is he? So he was the first one. But we have people that are so incredible. Your Republican Party Chairman Bobby Kaufman and his son, who is a brilliant guy, and he worked with us. And I will tell you, that is a family of real professionals. Matt Whitaker, who is the very talented and very good Attorney General. Where is Matt? He's around here someplace, and he's been with us all the way. We have a man that was very impressive. And I say, there's nothing wrong with it. He's so solid and so good that he didn't catch on. Sometimes being a little controversial is good. He's so perfect. Although he did break his leg during the campaign, that wasn't so good. But it sort of stood out a little bit, Doug. But Doug Burgum from North Dakota, the governor, and his beautiful wife, Catherine, and he got out of the race. What people don't know is that he actually supported me on the other side twice already, right? Then he decided to do it, and he was outstanding. But the traction is never easy, right? You need controversy for traction sometimes, and this guy is the most solid guy. There's no controversy whatsoever, and he's one of the best governors in our country, and I hope that I'm going to be able to call on him to be a piece of the administration, a very important piece of the administration. And also, just to conclude with this, the entire Trump team, and that includes my two boys who are really here all the time, whenever we needed them. Whenever we needed them. They are great, Eric and Don. And look at all these people. Oh, Susie, I have to say. And Chris. Chris. And they want no accolades. They just want a victory, and they want to make America great again. That's all they want, actually. They don't want to be speaking. They don't want to have pictures. They just want to do their job, right? I want to thank you very much, Jason, everybody. You're really fantastic. What a job you've done. Thank you. So we're going to come together. We're going to drill, baby, drill right away. Yeah. Drill, baby, drill. We're going to seal up the border. Because right now we have an invasion. Some of them really bad. And many of them are. My wife attended the funeral 2 months ago of Rosalind Carter, and it was beautiful. And Jimmy Carter was there, and I thought to myself, Jimmy Carter is happy now because he will go down as being a brilliant president by comparison to Joe Biden. He'll be a brilliant president. He's going to be known as brilliant by comparison. So we have to stop the invasion. We have to bring down our energy. We have to, I say all the time, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other nation anywhere in the world. And we have to stop the crime, and we have to help rebuild our cities, and we have to rebuild the capital, Washington, D.C. I was there on one. We're going to rescue our economy. We're going to save our economy. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. There was never a greater economy, and now we don't. And when you look at what's happened with inflation, inflation is destroying. They call it a country killer. Going back hundreds of years, Germany, countries that had big inflation are dead. They become dead countries. We have to stop that immediately. And we want peace through strength.
So what Trump brought up just now is very important, okay? And we'll get to Amy Coney Barrett in a couple of minutes. What Trump brought up is very important, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason it's important is that inflation was around, less than 3% when Trump left office. Less than, it was less than 3% in 2019 and around there when Trump left office. It went up to 7 to 8% inflation. I think we almost close to 9% inflation at one point. Before that, we heard from Biden's administration that inflation was temporary. Okay? Then they raised interest rates. Do you want to know why the inflation numbers are officially at 3 to 4% and they're going up? Because they raised interest rates, so now mortgage rates are 7 to 8%. Okay? They raised interest rates exponentially, forcing actually Silicon Valley Bank and other banks to go under. So the interest rates went up exponentially in 1 year to combat inflation. That's why inflation went down. In addition to, they flooded millions of barrels, over half of America's strategic petroleum reserves. And they begged other countries for oil. This is why they pontificate about the planet. So two things, and credit card debt is at an all-time high in the United States of America. Okay, you don't have to be an expert or an economist to understand this. What Democrats do is they hide behind experts who are liberal Democrats and ignore the experts who are conservative. And meanwhile, you have the average person with common sense. Interest rates went up. That's why inflation went down. Bidenomics does not work. That's why Trump is up with 24/7 negative media coverage. That is Very important, because when you're not going after, you're not talking just about Trump versus Democrats. You're talking about Trump versus never Trump Republicans, Democrats, media, 24/7 negative media. So, but that's important. Whenever they say, well, Biden took care of inflation. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He caused the inflation by going after oil companies and other counterproductive, absurd, foolish policies. Then he was sued by oil-producing states and lobbyists, and within the lawsuit, oil lobbyists, within the lawsuit, they said, you're going to increase inflation, and inflation went up. Whenever you have environmentalists, and they're, let's just say they care so much about the planet, that's great. They're driving to the demonstration using oil and gas. And Biden flooded the country full of millions of barrels of strategic petroleum reserves while going after American oil companies and begging countries in other regions of the world that are chaotic right now for more oil. So the administration has been all over the place, completely inept and incompetent. Unlike Trump, where we had record low poverty and record highs in household median income. And we had not only a functioning economy with Trump, but a growing economy. Unemployment was at an all-time low, inflation was low, and interest rates were low. Unlike now, where you have unemployment low, but inflation is only low because interest rates are high. And credit card debt is at an all-time high, fueling consumer spending. And like I said, Biden released half of America's strategic petroleum reserves. I can tell you for a fact that a brilliant man, one of the greatest comedians of our generation, Bill Maher, doesn't know any of this, or at least doesn't know a lot of it. He's very knowledgeable, very educated. His analysis is spot on a lot of times, but as a liberal Democrat, he will only vote liberal Democrat. He can never get himself to vote for Trump, even though objectively the economy was better. And objectively foreign policy was better. That's a problem we have in our country, this type of tribalism. I don't care about political parties. What do I care about political parties? I want a great president. Anyway, let's continue.
Russia would have, the numbers are far, far greater than anybody would even think possible. You're going to find that out in the years to come. When they knock down these massive buildings in Ukraine, and likewise, Israel would have to give to Hamas harsh penalties for people that go around shooting. They said, you'll never get over 50, and I just left and we're at 54. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with it, but they said, you can't do that, sir. I said, what's about the highest? Well, you could get into the 40s, maybe 40, 41. And then I looked up, and, it was very interesting. I didn't know they called it early. I thought that they called it at about 10 o'clock. My impression, see this gentleman? He's dressed like a wall. I love this guy. He's been at 150 rallies probably, right? He has the most beautiful outfit I've ever seen. It's all beautiful brick. Will you come up here? Just come up here. Come on. It's so nice to see. Right? Come on up here. He's emblematic of what we did. We built over 500 miles of wall. We were going to add another 200 miles. It's much more than we promised. And we had the safest border in the history of our country. Now we have the worst border in the history of the world. Look at this, man. Congratulations.
Incredible to see you again.
Really nice. Nice to see you, man. You take care of yourself, okay?
We will.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
I love that outfit. I love him. That's great. We love it. That's a hot-selling jacket, by the way. So. but that represents what we did. No, we built a tremendous, that's the reason. And we got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free. And we had remain in Mexico, and we had catch and release in Mexico. And we did a job. We had the safest border in our history. We had the greatest economy in our history. We were a great nation 3 years ago, and now we're a nation in decline. We are going to.
By the way, thank you, Play to Win 1958, to my super chat. I cannot thank you enough. We will get to Amy Coney Barrett in 1 minute. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you to my super chat. Thank you. I want to show you really quickly before we get to Amy Coney Barrett. What does this say here? Trump v. Biden. In November, he's up 1.9. That's nonsense to me. Okay? I think he's up a lot more than that. But you look, we had a better country. We were more influential on the world stage. We were more influential on the world stage. And Play to Win, thank you again, 1958, to my super chat. Thank you. I can't do this without you, everybody. Secret Spaceship, hello. One of the great names of the channel's history. You look, ladies and gentlemen, he's up 2 points nationally. Now, imagine when people really look back and they have time. You know, there was a survey or poll done where people look back and say, yeah, Trump's years were better than we thought. They were better than we thought because the economy is about to experience, unfortunately, a devastating stock market crash. There's too much exposure to crypto. We have record highs in credit card debt. Corporate profits are at an all-time high because inflation and because there's a scarcity of goods. And that it's all linked to Democrats and bureaucrats and media pushing to shut down economic activity. You know, years back, we still haven't unfortunately seen the economic consequences, which will be, I believe, catastrophic. Because record highs in credit card debt and inflation going up still with interest rates at 7 to 8% for mortgages, and it was what, 3% or so, less than that with Trump, around 3% with more. So you paid twice as much in your mortgage than you did with Donald Trump. If you voted Biden, you're going to pay twice as much in 2024 for a mortgage payment than you did with Trump. How is that a good president? How is that a good economy? Play to Win, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. Let's get to, ladies and gentlemen, Amy Coney Barrett. So I think you're going to hear Justice Sotomayor actually take the Colorado lawyer to task for a moment, and then Amy Coney Barrett. Hit subscribe if you are new to this channel. And ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the reasons he'll win, along with Roberts, Clarence Thomas, okay, Kavanaugh, Alito. This is an historic victory for Trump in the making. And this will lead to a landslide victory, almost certainly. Definitely a victory, could possibly be a landslide. And we'll explain why, but let's listen to Amy Coney Barrett. Again, I think it's Justice Sotomayor at first, and then Amy Coney Barrett, and you'll see exactly why Trump is heading for certain victory.
could maybe put most boldly, I think that the question that you have to confront is why a single state should decide who gets to be president of the United States. In other words, this question of whether a former president is disqualified for insurrection to be president again is, just say it. It sounds awfully national to me. So whatever means there are to enforce it would suggest that they have to be federal, national means. Why does, if you weren't from Colorado and you were from Wisconsin or you were from Michigan, and it really, what the Michigan Secretary of State did is going to make the difference between, whether candidate A is elected or candidate B is elected. I mean, that seems quite extraordinary, doesn't it?
No, Your Honor, because ultimately it's this court that's going to decide that question of federal constitutional eligibility and settle the issue for the nation. And certainly it's not unusual that questions of national importance come up.
I'm sorry. I have to just add something. With all due respect to the Colorado lawyers, I believe it's Justice Sotomayor, who's a liberal, one of the 3 liberal justices on the court. Or no, maybe it was Justice Kagan. Sorry, Justice Kagan. One of the 3 liberal justices asks, it is obviously a decision in Colorado that's going to impact the entire country on a federal and national level. What gives any state, Colorado or any state, the right to do that? Then the lawyer says, the rebuttal is, well, it's not the state doing that. Obviously, the Supreme Court will rule on it. The Supreme Court is only ruling on this because the state decided to make decisions for 49 other states on a federal and national level. Hello? Of course the Supreme Court's going to decide on it. The state of Colorado isn't the United States Supreme Court. He was asked by Justice Kagan, doesn't this seem like a state is making a federal decision? And the response is, well, of course the state's not making a federal decision. The Supreme Court will be making the federal decision. But the Supreme Court is only looking at this because the state decided unilaterally, without Trump being convicted or anyone being convicted for a rebellion, or without Trump being convicted of organizing a rebellion, and with people being let into the building by law enforcement, people having already been acquitted because of footage, new footage, exculpatory evidence that was withheld from the criminal trials. Colorado decided on its own that they feel Trump is a criminal. So therefore, before he's even prosecuted or before he's even convicted in a court of law, they're going to make the decision for everyone else and say, you know what? He's not going to be eligible on a federal, on a national stage because we think he committed a crime. We think that he committed a crime. So because we feel that way, we watched a lot of MSNBC and CNN footage that, correlates directly to every single day that summer, and I agree with why people demonstrated peacefully, but if you're a liberal Democrat, you think Trump committed a rebellion, what happened to every day that summer? Was that a rebellion or not? Just asking. Right outside the White House, where Trump had to, the president of the United States of America in late May had to seek shelter from left-leaning organizations or demonstrators. And he was mocked for it in publications. But was that a rebellion? Of course not. Of course it wasn't a rebellion, because the demonstrators weren't conservative. Again, I'm not equating the underlying reasons for the demonstrations. I also support why people demonstrated peacefully that summer. But don't pretend that That day in January, terrible day, absolutely terrible. Didn't happen every single day that summer. And there's such a double standard. But anyway, it's really funny because the the response is, well, of course, Colorado is not making a national decision. Of course, Colorado is not making a decision on a federal level. You are, and get it. The only reason the Supreme Court is in this is because Colorado decided on this very absurd ban. Anyway.
Boldly, I think that the question that you have to confront is why a single state should decide who gets to be president of the United States. In other words, this question of whether a former president is disqualified for insurrection to be president again is, just say it. It sounds awfully national to me. So whatever means there are to enforce it would suggest that they have to be federal, national means. Why does, if you weren't from Colorado and you were from Wisconsin or you were from Michigan, and it really, what the Michigan Secretary of State did is going to make the difference between, whether candidate A is elected or candidate B is elected. I mean, that seems quite extraordinary, doesn't it?
No, Your Honor, because ultimately it's this court that's going to decide that question of federal constitutional eligibility and settle the issue for the nation. And certainly it's not unusual that questions of national importance come up.
Well, I suppose this court would be saying something along the lines of that a state has the power to do it. But I guess I was asking you to go a little bit further and saying, why should that be the right rule? Why should a single state have the ability to make this determination, not only for their own citizens, but for the rest of the nation?
Because Article 2 gives them the power to appoint their own electors as they see fit. But if they're going to use a federal constitutional qualification as a ballot access determinant, then it's creating a federal constitutional question that then this court decides, and other courts, other states, if this court affirms the decision below, determining that President Trump is ineligible to be president, other states would still have to determine what effect that would have on their own state's law and state procedure.
Well, I mean, if we affirmed and we said he was ineligible to be president, yes, maybe some states would say, well, we're going to keep him on the ballot anyway. But I mean, really, it's going to have, as Justice Kagan said, the effect of Colorado deciding. And it's true. I just want to push back a little bit on, well, it's a national thing because this court will decide it. You say that we have to review Colorado's factual record with clear error as the standard of review. So we would be stuck. The first mover state here, Colorado, we're stuck with that record. And, I don't want to get into whether the record, I mean, maybe the record is great, but what if the record wasn't? I mean, what if it wasn't a fulsome record? What if, the hearsay rules are, one-offs? Or what if this is just made by the Secretary of State without much process at all? How do we review those factual findings? Why should clear error review apply? And doesn't that just kind of buckle back into this point that Justice Kagan was making, that we made with Mr. Mitchell, too, that it just doesn't seem like a state call?
3 points, Your Honor. The first is that ordinarily, of course, this court reviews factual findings for clear error, but President Trump made the point in his reply brief that sometimes on constitutional questions that require a uniform resolution, this court can do something more like a Bose Corp-style independent review of the factual record. And we would have no objection to that, given that the record here, really the facts that are disputed here are incredibly narrow. The essence of our case is President Trump's own statements that he made in public view for all to see.
But then that's saying
Trump told people to peacefully and patriotically, using the word peacefully, demonstrate. He did not tell people to do anything in particular. And he used the same semantics or the same words that politicians use all the time on the left. By the way, the secret spaceship. And also, oh my goodness, DS2324, thank you. Both of you, thank you so very, very much. Thank you to my super chat. Thank you so much. Secret Spaceship, thank you. And DS, thank you so much. Well, anyway, to my super chat, thank you so much. But the point is, he did not tell people to commit any crimes. Where is the logic here? I don't understand where, if the Colorado lawyer said, well, it's his own words, we're just going by his own words, where did he tell people to commit all of these crimes and go into the building? Where did he do this? I mean, I'm telling you, there's like when Trump speaks, liberals hear something that he doesn't say. It's like, Trump's words are translated or altered into this fine mist of liberal indignation. What did he say to make people commit criminal acts? Absolutely nothing. He used the word peaceful, and that was the furthest thing from his mind. Had he known this would devolve into madness, he wouldn't have had that day. It was a terrible day to begin with. He shouldn't have had the day. There were other ways to, I understand why he had the day, and he had the right to disagree with results. Just like Bernie Sanders had the right to disagree in 2016, but guess what? He didn't. Had Bernie Sanders had the courage and the spine of Trump, he too would have disagreed and made a stink about what they did to him in 2016 in the DNC primary, which was a complete theatrical performance, and we found that out through emails. That, according to Democrats, and the Kremlin wanted you to know, even though the Democrats themselves wrote these emails, Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigned, and I believe promptly joined Clinton's campaign, as did 3 or 4 other Democratic officials. But there's nothing that Trump said, and the lawyer says, well, we're just going by Trump's own words. He used the word peaceful, so.
That in this context, which is very high stakes, if we review the facts essentially de novo, you want us all to just watch the video of the ellipse and then make a decision without any deference to or guidance from lower court fact-finding? That's unusual.
Well, ultimately, President Trump himself urges this court to decide the merits of his eligibility on the factual record here at page 2 of his brief. He's never at any point in this proceeding suggested there was something else that needed to be in the factual record, any other witnesses that he wanted to call to present his case. And again, the essence of our case is his own statements, and in particular, his own videotaped statements on the ellipse.
The lawyer is saying there's a kind of, I don't know what kind of argument this is. Justice Kagan and the lawyer is saying Justice Kagan and Justice Amy Coney Barrett are asking the lawyer, well, why would Colorado decide an entire federal election? The lawyer then says, Colorado's not deciding. The Supreme Court is. And then they both said, well, we're only deciding, the Supreme Court is only in this because Colorado decided to disqualify Trump before he was convicted of anything. Then the lawyer said, you know what? Not our fault. It's Trump who said that the Supreme Court has the right to decide. So therefore, Colorado didn't decide anything. Get it? Is that not amusing to you? the argument is Trump brought this to the Supreme Court because he didn't want to leave it at the Colorado Supreme Court, so therefore it's his fault that the Supreme Court is going to decide on a case the Supreme Court shouldn't have to decide on to begin with. I mean, the man can't win. Trump, it's like unbelievable. Like, there's zero ability. This is why it could be Amy Coney Barrett and the liberal justices, along with the conservative. It could be a 9-0. This could be a 9-0 ruling, a unanimous ruling. And do you know how embarrassing that will be for every liberal state, every blue state that wanted Trump to be disqualified before even having been convicted of any crime? Because he used the word peaceful and people were let into the building and people had already been acquitted. They deliberately took a chaotic scene that took place every day that summer and said because it was in D.C., it was a rebellion. And it was against the Constitution. But by the way, according to Democrats, it's not against the Constitution. It's not a rebellion. There's nothing wrong with the democracy if left-leaning or demonstrators completely torture, cause chaos in a city that you happen to live in. Big deal. There's no democracy or constitution there. Does your city have the Constitution and democracy? Does your city have offices of Congress people? Well, then whatever. Who cares? Democrats don't care. There's no democracy and constitution and the rule of law and the republic and all this stuff where you live. It's fiery but mostly peaceful, like CNN said where you live. God forbid. God forbid. But in D.C., with Trump, democracy. Republic. The Constitution. So notice how reverence for our way of life is only a it's a talking point. It's a talking point. You know, you have major cities riddled with crime. You have major cities that have been, a couple years back, in some parts, completely destroyed. We're talking billions in property damage throughout the country. We're talking billions in property damage throughout the country. And I didn't see Cheney or Kinzinger or Pelosi or the January committee shed any tears about the billions in property damage that summer. Because, like the you-know-what they blamed on Trump, they wanted to blame everything on Trump, and the most overt, transparent, disgusting, shameful political maneuvering. Oh, look, bad things happen. It's Trump's fault. Meanwhile, Hunter has an email where he calls Joe Biden the big man and that Joe Biden gets 10% of all the earnings. And there's emails showing that Joe met Hunter's business associates. And there's an email saying that, oh, by the way, how can you use your influence on the company's behalf? The same company that Joe forced out a prosecutor, withheld $1 billion from investigating, but zero link. Absolutely, positively zero link. You haven't proven anything. There's absolutely, it's all just, there's zero link. But with Trump, he used the word peaceful and people committed crimes. It's his fault. That's it. His fault. something, people people, had to deal with, what, emanating from another country. Trump's fault. Trump's fault. Everything's Trump's fault. A supernova or some celestial body 100 light years away implodes. Trump's fault. Trump's fault. And it's just kind of hilarious. It's like this exchange, if it goes 9-0, if it's 6-3, he'll still go victory. 9-0, oh my God. Oh my God, because you just heard Kagan, and it could be 7-2. I think you'll get at least one liberal justice siding with the majority. I think you'll get at least one. It could be 8-1. And I don't know. Let's listen to this again. This is amazing. This is Amy Coney Barrett has given Trump essentially a landslide, along with, if you want to look at like Clarence Thomas did that, Roberts, Kavanaugh, even Justice Kagan, you hear now. Justice Kagan is fantastic. Listen to this. And then you'll hear, again, Amy Coney Barrett. This is amazing. If it's 9-0, immediately look at this channel. We will have the most amazing celebration live stream. But whatever, even if it's 5-4, we'll still have the most amazing live stream. Hit subscribe, by the way, if you're new to this channel. Hit subscribe.
Put most boldly, I think that the question that you have to confront is why a single state should decide who gets to be president of the United States. In other words, this question of whether a former president is disqualified for insurrection to be president again is, just say it. It sounds awfully national to me. So whatever means there are to enforce it would suggest that they have to be federal, national means. Why does, if you weren't from Colorado and you were from Wisconsin or you were from Michigan, and it really, what the Michigan Secretary of State did is going to make the difference between, whether candidate A is elected or candidate B is elected, that seems quite extraordinary, doesn't it?
No, Your Honor, because ultimately it's this court that's going to decide that question of federal constitutional eligibility and settle the issue for the nation. And certainly it's not unusual that questions of national importance come up.
Well, I suppose this court would be saying something along the lines of that a state has the power to do it. But I guess I was asking you to go a little bit further and saying, why should that be the right rule? Why should a single state have the ability to make this determination, not only for their own citizens, but for the rest of the nation?
Because Article 2 gives them the power to appoint their own electors as they see fit. But if they're going to use a federal constitutional qualification as a ballot access determinant, then it's creating a federal constitutional question that then this court decides, and other courts, other states, if this court affirms the decision below, determining that President Trump is ineligible to be president, other states would still have to determine what effect that would have on their own state's law and state procedure.
Well, if we affirmed and we said he was ineligible to be president, yes, maybe some states would say, well, we're going to keep him on the ballot anyway. But really, it's going to have, as Justice Kagan said, the effect of Colorado deciding. And it's true. I just want to push back a little bit on, well, it's a national thing because this court will decide it. You say that we have to review Colorado's factual record with clear error as the standard of review. So we would be stuck. The first mover state here, Colorado, we're stuck with that record. And, I don't want to get into whether the record, maybe the record is great, but what if the record wasn't? What if it wasn't a fulsome record? What if, the hearsay rules are, one-offs? Or what if this is just made by the Secretary of State without much process at all? How do we review those factual findings? Why should clear error review apply? And doesn't that just kind of buckle back into this point that Justice Kagan was making, that we made with Mr. Mitchell, too, that it just doesn't seem like a state call?
3 points, Your Honor. The first is that ordinarily, of course, this court reviews factual findings for clear error, but President Trump made the point in his reply brief that sometimes on constitutional questions that require a uniform resolution, this court can do something more like a Bose Corp-style independent review of the factual record. And we would have no objection to that, given that the record here, really the facts that are disputed here are incredibly narrow. The essence of our case is President Trump's own statements that he made in public view for all to see.
But then that's saying that in this context, which is very high stakes, if we review the facts essentially de novo, you want us all to just watch the video of the ellipse and then make a decision without any deference to or guidance from lower court fact-finding? That's unusual.
Well, ultimately, President Trump himself urges this court to decide the merits of his eligibility on the factual record here at page 2 of his brief.
The only reason Trump wants the Supreme Court to decide on his eligibility is because Colorado has ruined it for the entire country. Colorado made a state decision that affects 49 other states. Therefore, Trump is not going to go back to the Colorado Supreme Court. He has to go to the U.S. Supreme Court, which has to decide whether or not Colorado can ruin or can disenfranchise 70 to 80 million Americans. You know when Democrats talk about disenfranchising people? Well, you'd be disenfranchising 70 to 80 million Americans. And by the way, Trump is gaining a lot more support within Black communities, Latino communities, young people, okay, people of my religious or ethnic background for sure, and a whole bunch of new voters are going to Trump. So why would you disenfranchise millions of people? Why would one state be able to do that? And of course, the Supreme Court is going to rule on this. And of course, Trump wants the Supreme Court to rule on this. How on earth is that an answer to how Colorado is able to influence a federal contest? It's just like, it's the same type of arguments that took place, very similar to that young man in Wisconsin chased by 3 or 4 people. It was just, the liberal arguments on a lot of things are, well, you forced us to do this, or, well, everyone is saying it's this, or we think this is the case, so therefore it has to be, or our sensibilities are so powerful that they've replaced reality, so there you go. And it's like Trump was not convicted and people were already acquitted because of exculpatory evidence in the form of video footage. It was not a rebellion, and just because the Supreme Court of any state feels that it was a rebellion doesn't make it a rebellion. And Amy Coney Barrett pushing back, along with Kagan, it could be a 9-0. It could be 9-0. A unanimous. Could you imagine a unanimous Supreme Court? It's 6-3, conservative liberal. Could you imagine a unanimous ruling? 9-0? Could you imagine the response on CNN and MSNBC? Oh, no. The View? Oh, no. Oh, no. We have to do away with the Supreme Court. That's it. That's it. The Supreme Court is now Trumpers. They're all Trumpers. Oh, no. No. Absolutely. That's it. No more. No more. Oh, that's it. Oh, my God. Our democracy's at stake. It's like, this is the Supreme Court is the ultimate, the only the only place that determines what's constitutional and what isn't constitutional. The buck stops there. That is democracy, that you have a court. God forbid they side with Trump. Every single judge in a blue city, in a blue state that goes after Trump, oh, great ruling. Oh, wonderful. Oh, so good. So apolitical, nonpartisan, really objective. And then the Florida judge, God bless her, media's going after her. This is ridiculous. Oh, no. This is really hurting our chances at convicting Trump before November. Must be nice to live in... Must be nice to just have that... To have liberal sensibilities decide your reality. Isn't that nice to live in a world where liberal sensibilities decide your reality? What's the definition of a farmer? I'm going to it. A person who wears overalls. Don't say that word. It's actually just person who wears overalls. I could go on for... Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. If you're new to this channel, Democrats live with euphemisms and the most finely distilled liberal outrage distilled into the sensibilities, liberal sensibilities that create their own universe. Anyway, hit subscribe. I'm going off on a million tangents at once. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. God bless you. To them a super chat, thank you. I'll be back tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. Be here at 10 p.m. Eastern, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everybody. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Thanks so much. To my super chat, thank you. Be here at